Happy evening to one and all present here. It is indeed exciting to have an extraordinary guest amidst us. Our guest for today's expert series is not just an author of a best-selling, engrossing book, but also an exceptional traveler and an adventure seeker. I take great pleasure in welcoming the most enterprising Miss Piya Bahadur, who is the expert series speaker for today's evening. Thanks a lot for being here today, ma'am. Our learners are extremely thrilled and looking forward to interact with you. Before we begin with the interaction, I'd like to give a quick recount about the interesting series of events that were organized during the Dear Week. Dear stands for Drop Everything and Read. The Dear Week Portfolio Challenge was initiated on the 13th of this month, followed by the Platoon Quest of quizzes and word games organized by the senior learners for their junior peers on 14th August. Our learners also benefited from the enlightening interactive sessions with authors such as Mrs. Shobana Kumar and Ms. Nirupama Vaidyanathan, who provided thought-provoking insights into books, sports, and writing. Following the expert series interaction, we have been witnessing intriguing Dear Week portfolio presentations and engaging vlogs by our learners as entries to Dear Week challenges 1 and 2. Without further ado, we could begin with the event planned for today. I once again thank you and welcome you for being here with us today, Ms. Piya Bahadur. Request you to share your thoughts with us. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bhanumati, and thank you so much, RAKS, for having me here today. It is really my pleasure to be here and talk to students about the pleasures of both travel, writing, reading, and storytelling. So thank you all for having me here. And congratulations to the school on thinking up this very innovative event to have people, have young people read and discuss and think about what they have read in such a beautifully creative surroundings. So congratulations to the school authorities for setting this up. As Ms. Bhanumati introduced me, I did have an adventurous trip 2 years ago, and that involved motorcycles, traveling to countries which we hadn't seen before, on roads that we haven't traveled on before, eating foods that we hadn't tried before, sleeping in places and strange beds every night. So yes, it was certainly one of great adventure. And I had a quick question. Did some of you think about reading the book, The Road to Mekong? Show of hands. Some of you did. Okay, great. And I'm going to wait for you all to tell me what you thought about it. But before that, maybe I will take the opportunity to talk about some of the things that may not have, which I found interesting about the trip, and perhaps about the trip in itself, which sort of provoked me to think about what I was doing and why I was doing it, and how should I talk about it, and why should I remember it, and why should I write it in a place which will tell the story to other people, right? So let me share a quick presentation with you, and if I can do that. Yes, it's right here. Let me know when you guys can see my screen, okay? Show of hands. Can you see the screen? Okay, great. So yes, this motorcycling trip that I went on in 2018 started in February and ended in April. And we christened it the Road to Mekong, simply because the river Mekong flowed through all these 5 countries. And since we in India, think so highly of our rivers, that and as it is with all civilizations, because most civilizations began as cradles of civilizations around rivers, and the Mekong is really one of those great rivers also in the Southeast Asian peninsula, which feeds the economies and the cultures of all these 5 countries that we went to. So, but it didn't start so easy, right? We took months and months, like any project, like any business, like any exam, like any event one wants to take up in life, with a lot of work right? It wasn't like one fine day we got up and said, chal yaar, let's go on this motorcycling trip and went. There was a lot of things to be planned, right? Where will the money come from? What route should we take? Are there going to be enough hotels on the way? Are there going to be enough petrol pumps? What if we fall sick? What if the police in those other countries catch us and throw us in jail? What, how do you plan and think of all these things, right? So it started a good 8 months before the event itself of motorcycling. In fact, the motorcycling part was the easy part. It was the planning which was difficult and tedious. But you have to put one step in front of the other and go ahead with it. And even though it might, the end will seem very adventurous, the hard work was plodding, boring, and had to be done. But it was very exciting. I mean, in terms of, we hadn't done this before. We hadn't even thought about how it can be done. And so it was like, oh, shall we go and ask the government? Oh, shall we go and ask Bajaj for motorcycles? Or shall we ask Royal Enfield for motorcycles? Oh, we need money. Who can we ask? Will the government help us, you think? So all these things were just questions out there. And we took all of them, like, let's take a chance. Like, even asked the auto wala, bhaiya Sansad Marg chalenge, which translates literally to, will you come to the parliament, drop us to the parliament house? And literally we went to the parliament street and walked into the government offices and said, this is our plan. Do you think the government of India can support us? And guess what? They actually did. I mean, the point I'm trying to make here is that one should not be afraid. You never know what might lead to something else. So we picked up this, in when you grow up and you go to college, and some of you will do management, there's this term called BHAGs, okay, which is big, hairy, audacious goals. The point being that the goal that you're chasing should be really large enough. It should be meaty enough to really chase after. It can be hairy, because hairy in this context meaning that, I'm not sure if we will have enough money to do this. I'm not sure if I will fall sick. I'm not sure if my back will, take the trouble of riding motorcycles for 56 days every day. Audacious, because it was like, we could have thought about Hyderabad to Delhi. Let's go on a motorcycle. Let's go from Hyderabad to the border of India. We could have thought about, let's go from Hyderabad to Bangkok. But no, we said, let's go from Hyderabad to as far east as we can go, which is the edge of the peninsula, Southeast Asian peninsula, turn around and come back, right? So it was audacious. But if one makes goals which are really like that, now we all want to be that first person on the moon. Actually, no, that's done. But, we go in a rocket ship, or learn how to fly, or learn how to, or, be a train driver, and all the other kinds of things that we think, can I really do this? But yes, point is in trying. And this was a map we took. This was a route we took. We went from Hyderabad up to Petropol, which is the Bangladesh border, crossed into Burma, which is at the northeast border of India, into Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, into Cambodia, and back to Delhi and back, right? So this is what the trip looked like. It was about 17,000 kilometers. There were tough roads in between. I can tell you how many times I sat on the side of the road and wanted to cry, that why did I take up this stupid, terrible idea? And why did I come till here? And now I can't even go back. I can't even go forward. What am I going to do? So yes, we all face the frustration and the uncertainty of things that we've not tried before. And yes, we are allowed to cry, but then you have to wipe your tears and get on the motorcycle and go forward, right? That's how it works. And yes, of course, we were afraid. We were afraid not just of accidents and getting hurt and getting sick, or getting, we don't know the political climate in these places. Maybe they'll catch us. Maybe their military will have a problem with us or something like that. So those physical fears were there. There were also the mental fears that we told everybody very smartly that, hello, you know what, I'm going to ride a motorcycle to the peninsula, to the Southeast Asian peninsula, and I will come back. And what if we can't do it? Will all my friends laugh at me? What will they think about me? And things like that, right? So point is that, again, it's a question of, guess what, let whatever anybody wants to think, I'm going to try this out for myself. Okay, so that's the bit I'm talking about, that we really need to be less afraid. And I think as children, you guys are less afraid, but as we grow up, we become more and more afraid. So just remember, don't worry too much, don't get too fearful. And yes, there is always this community of people who will be helping you, who will be supporting you, who will be cheering you. And you in turn should be that group of community of people for other people, right? When somebody of your group is trying out something, we should make it a point to cheer them on and to support them and say, yeah, go for it. Just like when we were on this trip, motorcyclists from all over these countries, all over India came to, say hi and say, guys, go for it, kind of a thing. And it really makes a lot of difference to feel that kind of support. And we must make it a point to be supportive in turn, right? Of course, there were international checkpoints, and we went through these countries. And if some of you have flown internationally, you know what it means when you are crossing borders of countries. And I had always flown internationally. I had never really driven by road to other countries. So it was quite an interesting experience to see what happens when country borders are there, right? You are 10 minutes ago in one country, and suddenly you cross the border, the physical border, and you're in another country. So it was pretty exciting and novel to see overland borders. And the stories on the road, you meet all these interesting people you may not meet in everyday life, right? So the idea of stepping out of your comfort zone, you must have heard this several times. It is now an idea which a lot of us talk about, a lot of young people also think about. But stepping out of your comfort zone literally means hearing stories of other people, of trying out things you may not have tried out, right? And going ahead with those things, or seeing the world from a different perspective. And that's always the exciting part of the world suddenly seems fresh and new. So that's something that happened. That was the adventure of it all, the mental adventure we took to step out of our comfort zone and hear stories from other places. And of course, there was a lot of friendship. I mean, these were the 4 girls we went together. The person at the furthest is Shilpa, and then there is Shanti, and then there is me, and there is JB, who was the leader of who was the expedition leader. And what we learned to do was listen to her. Can you imagine 4 of us going on motorcycles and having to stop for breakfast or lunch or chai or bathroom or whatever? And everybody saying, now I want to stop, now I want to stop, now I want to stop. So you really can't do this. So one person has to take the decision and say, now we are stopping in 10 minutes. Everybody will go to the bathroom and come back. And in 10 minutes, we're on the motorcycles again, right? Because we had an expedition. This was not like, oh, we are just traveling around. This was, you have to keep to a time. We have to reach the next place on the same day before it gets dark or after it gets dark. But when we don't get so tired that we fall off the bikes in tiredness. So all those things had to be managed, and there had to be only one leader, and that one leader was JB. And she made sure that when we sat in the restaurant, she would just order the food and we would just eat whatever she ordered, because you really don't want to get this complication of, I want to eat this, I want to eat that, right? Or I don't want to eat here, I want to eat in the next shop. So there was this, this idea of understanding what leadership looks like. And it also meant understanding what following a good leader looks like. And you need both to successfully do anything. In all projects and all teams, these are the things that happen, right? And of course, there's the friendship and the trust of understanding that we are going together and all of us are responsible for making this expedition a success. And any one of us being the weakling would also make it a fail. I mean, we would not be able to complete. I wouldn't call it a failure, but yes, we may not be able to complete it. So those were, some of the other learnings that happened in the trip. And of course, there were injuries.
Yeah,
actually Pranav, please mute. Pranav, thank you. Thank you. So, and yes, there was a lot of press, and we met the Prime Minister of India, we met the Chief Minister of Telangana when we came back. We met a couple of ambassadors of India to both Laos and Vietnam. And they were all very excited and pleased to see us. And they were very, very supportive. And they actually made curd rice, which was a staple of Telangana. And I'm sure a lot of you down in Kerala also eat a lot of curd rice. But we really miss. And you know what? In the Southeast Asian plateau, they don't make curd. I mean, Southeast Asian peninsula, they don't make curd. Not one place we stopped, we could find curd. We could find Thai curry, and we could find fish sauce, and we could find soya sauce, but no curd whatsoever. So really, when we went to these embassies, these Indian embassies, and they gave us curd rice, we were very thrilled. They even packed us some so we could carry it for the next day. And ultimately, what it boils down to, fact that we could go to sleep anywhere, and all you actually need is some space to go to sleep, good food and motorcycle and travel. And that's all one needs. One doesn't need, so many fancy cars and so many nice restaurants to eat in and so many clothes and so many other things. But sometimes all one needs, it can be boiled down to very, very small, basic things. And sometimes that's enough to make one very happy. In our case, if you found a good cot to sleep on after lunch, you were very thrilled, very happy. That was all you needed. And this was one of the routes. We went to Halong Bay, which was as we had planned in Hyderabad many months ago, that we will go as far east as the road goes and then turn around after the road is finished. And this is where the road finished, right? As you can see in this map, the road finished. They went east. After that, there was a sea. So we had to turn around and come back to India. And this is the India-Myanmar-Thailand highway. Now, some of you might be reading in history how Thailand and Burma have been our closest neighbors for centuries, right? There are ships that have gone from India, from the East Coast, and gone to these places. And we have the presence of Hinduism and Buddhism and all these religions, and also food, similar trees that come across. And what we knew is that they have been our neighbors forever, and we've always have connects with them. So now the governments of these countries have made a road, which is called the India-Myanmar-Thailand Highway, and it comes all the way from Bangkok to New Delhi. And this has just been opened about 2 years ago. And the idea was to ride this road coming back, just to forge those friendships that we had with Southeast Asia for so many centuries, and that they've been our neighbors and friends forever, right? So this was that highway. And when we finally hit that highway, it was very thrilling to finally be there. This is what that road looks like. It was dusk, the sun was beginning to set, and it was a fantastic road ahead, right? And then, of course, we actually came home, and this was on the way back. You can see the tricolor in the distance, and 4 of us jumping with delight simply because we had back in one piece. Nobody had gotten hurt, nobody had died, the bikes had not become even punctured, there had been no accidents, and we could get tea finally. Because guess what? In Southeast Asia, they somehow don't make tea the kind of tea we make here, right? Boiled with chai patti and sugar and milk, right? The kind we have at home. Yes, it was such a pleasure being back. And of course, like I told you, there was a whole bunch of then recognition and so on, which is all part of the thing. But the fact is, no matter where we are, what we are, the world is a family, right? And there were, even while we couldn't speak to, and some of these pictures are from other countries, from Burma. Can you tell which one is from another country and which one is from our country?
Ma'am,
Yes.
can I, ma'am?
Yes.
Ma'am, so the one on the left is actually a face thing applied by Burmese people. I don't
Yes.
know what it's called, but I know that, and it's a old tradition. And the one on the right, the top right, is definitely I think it's India, ma'am, but it's closer to Thailand, I think.
Okay. Yes, you're almost all this is actually West Bengal, so closer to Bangladesh than the picture on the top. And yes, that is Tanaka. That is what the Burmese put. And the lowermost picture is that of Cambodia. So yes, the fact that, that we are neighbors and really people are the same mostly everywhere came back very quickly to us. This is the book which I'm sure some of you have, as I've been informed, have read. And I hope that some of you at least have enjoyed it. But it was written with great affection. And I hope that those who haven't had a chance do read it and let me know what you guys think. So I'm going to quickly get into, if you have questions, please raise your hand, or else I will quickly share one video which will give you a sense of what traveling on the road looks like. Okay. Or please go ahead and ask me some questions. I will start sharing this.
Okay.
If you have questions, raise your hand.
Miss Piya, this is from Ridula of grade 7. So her question is, did you ever think of giving up in between?
No, actually, surprisingly. There were times when I felt like crying and I was exhausted, and I felt like, oh, this is very dangerous. What if I fall down? But I think it was two things. One was I was afraid to give up because that would mean that the expedition would fail. And the other 3 girls who were with me would also not get a chance to go do the whole trip because we would have to go back, or, it would no longer be the complete thing. And the other thing was I felt that I may not get a chance like this again. And so I better do it now when I did get this fantastic opportunity. And I should not lose it because somebody else who had gotten this opportunity in my place would have done it. And so I can't let that other person down who didn't get the chance. And when I have got the chance, right? So there was this sense of, even while through tears and aches and pains, I really couldn't give up. So yeah, the thought didn't cross my mind that whether I can give up. So here is the video very quickly. Tell me if you can hear it.
कब आएगा? हाँ,
पूरा घूम के फिर वापस।
कंबोडिया में भी जाना है।
Okay. Does that sound like look like a motorcycle trip?
Yeah, ma'am.
No, ma'am, not most of motorcycle.
You wanted to see more of motorcycles?
Oh, ma'am, I thought there would be, yes, ma'am, I thought there would be more motorcycles.
There were 4 of us, so there were 4 motorcycles.
No, ma'am, I mean, not only
Riding.
motorcycles, so there, you went on boats and everything.
Yes, that was part of the travel. But there is another video which has more motorcycling, but I thought I'd rather hear you all tell me what you thought about the book and the trip.
Okay, ma'am.
It's on the web, by the way. It's on YouTube. You can have a look at it.
Okay.
Janvi and Siddeshwar, you can go ahead with your questions to Ms. Piya Bahadur.
So, ma'am, what would you tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self to be brave, to take more risks, to think through things and do what you want to without worrying too much about whether it has been done before, what will somebody say about it, what if I fail, what will it look like. Failure really shouldn't be worried about. We take ourselves too seriously. Oh my God, what will everybody say? Nothing. People don't remember, people don't notice. You should just lead your lives. Yes, Gohan.
Ma'am, how were the local people to you, and how did they welcome you, ma'am?
Well, mostly the local people were extremely nice. And I can tell you that mostly we couldn't speak the local language in these other countries. In India, of course, it was, since I could speak Hindi and the others could speak Marathi and Tamil and Telugu. So we were able to communicate in India quite a bit with the local folk. In the other countries, in Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, we could not speak the local languages. But you know what? They were still you could still feel that affection. Like we would stop somewhere at, what is a small roadside shop, and we would start eating, and then we'd look at the food because we wouldn't be able to eat some of it because it just tasted so strange that we would be like hesitating or eating some things and not eating the others. And they could see that maybe we're not really enjoying the food, and you could see these ladies in the shops trying to be helpful and trying to bring other food so that we would like that or try something else. You could see that affection, that they really wanted us to eat well, and they wanted us to, they're trying to be hospitable in their own way. And or they would oftentimes, when we just stopped for filling petrol, they would come by and look at us very carefully or touch us or smile. And there was always this non-verbal communication that did happen. Basically, you could feel their affection. Right. Several of them in these countries didn't know where they call India Indo. Right. So there was Indo. We were wearing badges with the Indian flag there. So some of them recognized that or knew what that meant or knew that we were coming from another country. But it was, I always felt welcome. I don't think at any point I felt threatened that, somebody wants to hurt me, harm me. Happy evening, ma'am. As I was wondering, like you travel for 56 days, would you allow your daughter to travel? Samrita, yes, I would, simply because if you were careful and you were a sensible traveler. And to be a sensible and careful traveler, first thing you have to do is put the phone away and not be looking at the phone. Seriously, I'm not joking. If you're looking at the phone while you're trying to cross a road, or you're trying to talk to someone, or trying to do anything, you're going to be so terribly distracted. So my daughter travels. She sometimes goes places without me. She's also 21 years old, the older one. The younger one is 19. So they do travel on their own. And my only request is that they should not be looking at their phone while they are talking to other people, engaging with people, eating somewhere else, not in the house, or they're in a new place. So that's one thing. Travel safe, and travel and be safe and be alert. That's the only things I would require from anybody who's planning to travel. Okay, Subicha, happy evening, ma'am. Have you ever Googled yourself? Googled myself. Yeah, I have. I mean, is there a second question to that? Subicha, do you want to elaborate?
No, ma'am. Have you ever Googled yourself after your ride?
Yes, actually, simply because there were a lot of reviews and book reviews that come in different places, which I didn't know. So you have to, and I was very keen to know how the book was accepted, or what people thought about the ride. And the internet is a great place to find out, right? Because everybody's communicating on that, and people tell you all types of things. When taken in small doses, it works very well. So Ryan, happy evening, ma'am. Does writing energize you or exhaust you? Actually, it does both. There are some times when I want to say something and make a point, and I really struggle with the thought to put it in the correct words and the correct flow of language, so that I'm able to express myself correctly to my audience, or who I think I'm writing for. And it isn't easy, and you struggle with it, and it is exhausting trying to think through that process. But it also energizes me when I'm thinking that this is what I wanted to say, and I said this so well, and I got my point across, and how wonderful, and I can do this again, and I can, all the thoughts that I'm thinking of and want to put this down coherently, I will be able to do it, and let me do this again. So yes, it does energize, but it also exhausts you when things are not going well. Much like riding, much like motorcycle riding, there are roads which can exhaust you and you want to stop and cry. And then there are things that, you see this fabulous sunset behind a fabulous mountain, and you're like, oh, I could do this forever, right? So like most things in life, they almost simultaneously exhaust and enrich.
Yes, ma'am. Got it, ma'am. Thanks.
How long? Okay, I think I'm missing a few. They've gone up, right? How long does it take for you to apply for a visa to each country? And do you need a separate number plate license for each country, or same number plates or license? So there is something called Carne, which is if you're taking international vehicles into other countries, Indian vehicles into other countries. So the government of India has to say that these people are taking these vehicles out, and they will bring it back. And the other country has to know that we are taking these vehicles out. So they're like passports of the vehicles. And no, they don't need multiple license plates. You still ride with the same license plate. So people would get very surprised. Like, where are you coming from? Where is this, what does this license plate say? Yeah. So then, what is the next question? What was the most hardest part of your journey? Sorry about the banging. I can't seem to prevent this. What was the hardest part of your journey? Which place did you find most interesting? I found the preview of your book really interesting. Thank you. Thank you so much. What was the hardest part of your journey? I will say it was Kohima, where, and the hardest part of the journey actually was when we decided that we are going to do this. That was a time when you once took the decision. After that, everything seemed easy. But riding wise, I would say Kohima in India's Nagaland, Northeast, we saw the worst roads. We saw the most, slippery. I slipped the most. I had an accident. All those things happened. So yeah, for me, that was like the hardest part. Which place did you find most interesting? Frankly, Laos. We'd heard of this country, Laos, and it's a tiny place, right? And I'm like thinking, hoga kuch Laos, somewhere between Thailand and Cambodia, kind of a thing, Burma. But it was this beautiful gem of a country, which is like so pristine. And so it looked like the earth, maybe 200 years ago. It's really so beautiful. And if you get a chance, do go there. Were you able to recall all the things you experienced during your travel while writing the book? Well, luckily for me, I was keeping notes when we were traveling. So I would actually make it a point to write every night. So any interesting things that happened, or, events that happened or places we saw, I did make a note of it that night. In fact, Pravina, one of your teachers here, is part of my school group. We are from the same school. We were in the same section like you are today. And in fact, I used to write these every day. Every night I would write a little bit and send it to my school group, and they would all comment on it and say, oh, this is so interesting. You seem to be having so much fun. And it was very encouraging to, they would keep cheering me on. So yes, I would write my experiences every night. So when I had to sit down and remember to write the book after I came back, it was a lot easier. Ma'am, how did you come to the conclusion whether to go for this trip or not to go? Well, I think it finally boiled down to, will I regret it 20 years later when I'm like, 60 years old and I can no longer even hope to be able to do a trip like this? Will I feel that I should have done that trip? Like, oh my God, I had a chance that comes rarely in people's life to do something like this. And I didn't take it. Why? Because I had to go to an office, or I had to open, or something like that. So I felt like, I should take the chance and do this trip. Yes, even though I was very scared. I'm intrigued to know how this inspiring team was formed. Well, we are part of a biking network called Biker News in Hyderabad, and this is Pan India. And so there is this. I'm sorry, is this really bothersome? It's not. Okay, great. Okay, great. It's just bothering me then. So we were all part of the Hyderabad riding Bikerni group, and JB. So we were sort of came together. The plan was, let's go riding. Let's go on a long ride. JB had already been from Kashmir to Kanyakumari and things like that. So it was like, can we go for a longer ride? And where would this longer ride go? And then we thought, maybe we can go all the way to Burma. And then we like, why Burma? Shall we go further? Shall we go to Bangkok? And then what? Shall we just go to the end of the peninsula where the sea begins? So that's how it was thought through. And the team began to come together because... how many kilometers do you travel a day? So it was different on different days. Some days when we were going through a lot of mountains and there was a lot of ghats, then we did like several...
One minute, Miss Piya. 1 minute. Shrivan Davanesh, can you please mute? Thank you.
His mom did it. So yeah, it depends between 200 to 600 kilometers. The longest we rode was 600 kilometers a day. The shortest was 200, but we averaged about 350 kilometers a day. Were there times when you got very frustrated while planning the travel? Yes, absolutely. It was very frustrating to plan the travel. While we were traveling, I think it was the easiest when we were actually riding the bikes. But to get those bikes and to get those bikes on the road and to get the bikes out of the country, it took a lot of frustrating times. Dear ma'am, before the meet, I researched about you in an article. I found that your daughter questioned you that why can't you travel, and what would you like to say to your daughter who made you gain your confidence? Well, I think I thanked her, and you're right. That was perhaps a very pivotal point in my going on the ride, because my daughter at that point said that, go big or go home kind of a thing. I thought that I'll ride maybe till Calcutta or maybe till the end of, till the Indian border with these girls, and then I'll come back because I have, to take care of my children and things and office and work. And she was like, are you afraid? Like, is it why you don't want to go? And partly she was right, because I was afraid. So, but I didn't want to accept it to myself. I was like, no, I don't want to go because I have to take care of children. No, I don't want to go because, my plants will die, and all those kinds of all the excuses. But the reality was that I was afraid. And when she asked me to my face, are you afraid? Then I had no choice but to face my fear, right? So in which case, then the next thing was to say, of course I can do it. And guess what? Finally, I did, simply because I had to face up to, her saying that, no, I'm not so afraid. Ma'am, when did you first start writing, and who was the first person to read it? Like I said, the notes I made on the road, I used to send in WhatsApp messages to my family and to some of my close friends, and they all read it and they were very encouraging. And then when I started writing the book was first read by my husband and a couple of early readers who had a look and said that, you know, because I was like, are you sure this can get published? Are you sure anybody else wants to read this stupid story? Or, you know, am I just thinking it's exciting? Would anybody else find it exciting? And so I needed people to sort of review it and tell me what they thought about it. And then, of course, there was an editor who helped me. So yes, my husband was the first person to read it. Ma'am, will you be doing more of such adventure trips in future? Yes, I certainly hope to. I mean, I was just talking to another friend the other day that I think that, you know, the trip around the Mediterranean sounds lovely. We could go from Fez, and which is, you know, in South is in North Africa, and go around the Mediterranean and maybe go all the way to Italy, and that would be such a fabulous trip. Or another trip would be Cairo to Cape Town, which goes right across Africa. Of course, many of these are, you know, plans, and not all plans come to life, but one can also always plan, right? Would you like to go on this trip, and what was the most unforgettable event in those 56 days of journey? Well, there were so many unforgettable events. I think, although the day we met the Mekong, you know, the day we reached a tributary of the Mekong, that was like, oh, finally we are there, because it had taken months and months of planning and days of hard riding to finally be there. That was the day I actually felt, oh my God, this is happening. This is really happening. So I think the day we actually met the Ruak, that's a river, that's like a tributary of the Mekong, that we saw in Tachilek, which is the border of Burma and Thailand. That's when I felt like, wow. Ma'am, did you think your book would become a huge success? Not really. I wrote because I felt it was a story that is worth telling. I wrote because I felt that it was a journey which would be interesting to see what other people are doing with their lives, what are the experiences other people are having with their lives, and that I should put it out there so that people get a chance to see and what other people are doing, right? And what they feel and how they think about it. So I felt that is what I was doing. And the fact that people enjoyed the storytelling, they enjoyed my thoughts was interesting.
Vyas, please mute. Ms. Piya, I think our learners have no end to the questions. But,
yes, I'm looking at 16 new messages.
No,
so, yeah.
No, we definitely don't have the time. But your parting thoughts, apart from, you know, the very inspiring one thing which you told us is, just don't be afraid and think big. You know, I think our learners need to be told that, the younger generation of today needs to be told that. So what are your parting thoughts?
Exactly that. Like, you know, do not allow other people to tell you what failure looks like. Do not allow other people to tell you what you should be doing and not doing. And, you know, oh my God, if you do this and this is not the right thing to be doing, or this is, if you try this and you fail, what will happen? I think failure is largely in our heads and we take it too seriously. We really should not take ourselves so seriously. We should do what we're doing with full concentration and make our best effort. But really, we should not worry so much about how it will look or how it will end. Truly, it's not worth worrying about that. The fun part is in doing something well, in trying your best. That is truly what is interesting and what is ultimately the most exciting part of things.
Thank you so much. On behalf of RACS Pallikudam School of Excellence, Little and RACS community, we want to thank you, Ms. Piya Bahadur, for making time for us. Travelogue is one genre we teach all our learners, and we also teach them descriptive writing. Thank you so much for making your experience come alive for our learners. Okay, it was intriguing, it was interesting, and it was entirely visual. So you appealed straight away to our learners. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Ms. Shweta, our correspondent, for giving us this opportunity to have our learners and mentors to be a part of this. Thank you, Ms. Praveena, for introducing us to Ms. Piya Bahadur and making this session happen. Thank you so much, Ms. Piya.
Joy to see my classmates, go through such huge adventure and write a book and get spoken about all of her. I'm really proud of her. Proud of you, Piya.
Thank you, Ms. Piya. Thank you so much.